The Nothing Phone 3 is the most hated phone on the internet, or at least that's what it seems like. Every time I go on X and every time there's a post by either the Nothing community or from the CEO, Carl Pei, all the comments are just filled with negativity. And man, I've never seen anything like this. And you know what? I feel like a lot of the hate is coming from people who've never even held on to this phone in real life. Well, I have. I spent over 40 days with it, maybe even longer. So let's get right into it. I think one of the first things people are really disappointed about is the new build and design. And at first, it may look like a complete departure from what Nothing typically does. But then when I bring up their most recent phone, other than the Nothing Phone 3, this is the 3A, you can see that the design language is still intact. In terms of the iconic red square, the see-through design and the way the back is with the exposed screws and all that stuff. And man, I'm a sucker for exposed screws. Being a gaming laptop enthusiast that I am, I do love seeing that. But anyway, I think where the controversy really starts to begin is the glyph lighting is no longer available and they've replaced it with this dot matrix pattern. And I'm going to agree with a lot of the critics that I don't think this is as well implemented as the glyph lighting. That was one of my favorite things about that phone. This is still useful in some ways, but honestly, 90% of the times I forget about it. This is based off of the newest update to where they've added a compass. I mean, I wear a smartwatch and pretty much every functionality I would ever want from this glyph matrix is always just available to me on my smartwatch, so I really haven't found much use for it, except for the glyph mirror when it comes to using the camera. I did find that to be useful because every single time the main sensor is always going to be better than a selfie sensor. So anyway, speaking about the sensors, another thing that people are not upset about is the lack of symmetry between the three cameras. So you have the telephoto lens offset to the left and it's not really aligned with the main sensor and also the ultra wide. So I guess that's bugging people. It was at first, but I kind of do like it. And you know what? A lot of people, when they see Nothing phones, they just assume it's an iPhone case. Having a unique camera layout does help to start differentiate this product a little bit more. And another thing that is unique to this phone is the aspect ratio. There really isn't much phones, at least that I've seen, that are like this, where it's a bit taller but then narrower. So it does give it a distinct, unique look, and the entire build feels just fantastic. One of the best built phones ever. The frame of the phone is a very high quality aluminum, one of the better feeling ones out there. And it's just got the perfect weight to it. It's not too heavy and it's not too light. Just enough weight to feel premium, but not enough to start to bog you down. So I really think that they did a lot of work in terms of the design. And let me just get into the ergonomics as well too while I'm here. Where you're getting a large screen, but it doesn't ever really feel like it because it is a little bit narrower than most other large screen phones. I can actually type very easily one-handed mode compared to a lot of the other phones, including the new Pixel 10 Pro XL, which I do find it a little bit more difficult to type one-handed. And it's also the perfect height to where it's also easy to swipe down from the top of the screen without having to do any kind of crazy gymnastics or anything like that. And another thing that Nothing really nailed is the software. I was willing to say that this is my favorite Android experience by far. And then the Pixel 10 Pro came out with the new Material Expressive. I think Nothing goes for like more of a cyberpunk, unique, badass looking OS, while Google tries to go for something a little bit more playful. I mean, you can still see that it's cut from the same language. It is still Android at the end of the day. Nothing is still taking the regular Android and then just putting their own skin on top of it versus somebody like Samsung who completely does their own thing, or they try to get away from stock Android as much as possible. Nothing is embracing stock with their own twists, and honestly, they're both good in different ways. I like the playfulness of Material Expressive on the Pixel, but then I also just love how cool the Nothing OS looks, and I've designed this home screen to be perfect for me. With the quick settings, you have a lot more features than you have with most other phones, and it's also very nicely implemented too, to where you can change all of these icons around. You can resize them, you can make them larger and smaller. And I love that if you have any Nothing products, the images of all the headphones or all the products you have are right there. So whenever you connect them, you just tap on the button and then it'll connect to them instantly. The notification panel is essentially unchanged from Android 15. I hope that they kind of update this a little bit because it is starting to look a little bit boring and not really consistent with the rest of Nothing OS. I know they have a new beta out for their new software using Android 16. And I did sign up for it and I did get approved, but I would have had to sign a waiver saying that I'm not allowed to show anything on video. And since I planned on doing a video review of this phone, that would not have worked. So I wasn't able to sign that, but I can't wait to check out the new Nothing OS when it drops. And I can't wait to see what features they have with it too. And a part of the new software is this essential space, and you can get there by double tapping the essential button, and a lot of people are not happy about this. They wish they could remap it. I know this is a hot take. I find the essential space very useful. Anytime something interesting comes up, I just press this button once and I can leave a note. Remind me to check this out. So this is a camera that's on sale that's usually a lot more expensive. So it automatically takes a screenshot, and then you saw that cool little animation. It's taking it to the essential space. And again, like I said, you get there by double pressing the essential key, and it uses AI to go through it, and it gives me the specs. And then look at that. It automatically creates a to-do list for me to check this out at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And on this to-do list, which is an essential app, it automatically pops up here. I didn't have to do anything. So here's another example. If I made plans with someone, all I have to do is just press this button and then press it again. And then it just automatically created this just using AI. I didn't have to do anything. Just literally one tap of a button did all this for me. And if you're wondering, does it automatically create an event in your calendar? Yes, it does. I didn't have to do anything. This automatically showed up in my Google Calendar. So great stuff. Very useful for a lot of things. If somebody gives me something to do, like literally all I have to do is just press this essential button, and then AI takes care of everything else for me. Man, I don't know why this feature is getting so much flack. I actually find this very useful. Oh, and another thing I like about the software is they implemented the smart drawer. Yes, I know that they're copying Apple, but it's a good feature. I find this to be a much better way to scroll through my different apps, having it automatically organized into these different categories. And you do develop some muscle memory and how to find it. And the more that you use an app, the more that it becomes forefront in each particular category. So this is something I've been using a lot, and this is something I have missed. So next is the camera, and I think this is ultimately where I'm going to have a hard time making this my main phone. It's a good camera. It's not a great camera. Nothing uses their own ISP, and it does a good job. I like the way colors are presented, but there's just not as much detail on the photos as some of the other flagships out there. One of my favorite things to do is to take a phone to a concert, and I feel like that's the ultimate stress test. Testing out the microphones, testing out the video, testing out the photos. So like I saw Kesha recently, and there was a moment in time where she came like literally right in front of us, and I needed a trusty phone to make sure I take a picture because everything was happening fast. Everybody was like bumping into me. They tried to get next to her and all that stuff. So I just grabbed this Nothing Phone 3 and snapped a few pictures, and a lot of them turned out good, and they are good enough too. And so that's one thing about cameras that a lot of other reviewers I noticed don't really talk about is moving subjects or getting a photo quickly and having the photo being usable. And this does pass a test. It doesn't excel in the test, but it does pass. And also important is video, and video is these days is probably more important than photography because that's what everybody's doing right now. The video is not bad. It's not great either. It's just serviceable. The Pixel, the iPhones, and the Samsungs will do much better in this regard. If you don't live and breathe by your camera, when you do need a camera, this one is very serviceable. So not very flagship, but it is upper mid-range quality, I would say. So I think that could be a little bit disappointing, and that's one reason why I'm having a hard time making this my main phone. I'm really into photography and videography, etc., and this does let me down a little bit. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I hope that we get there. And here's a microphone test at the concert. I've tested a lot of phones, and this one's a little bit mediocre. I'm not gonna lie, but it is, again, serviceable. And next, let's talk about this chip. This chip is flagship enough for most people. I don't care what the benchmarks say, which I will throw up the one test that I did. This does fine. And day-to-day use, you do not notice any difference compared to the S25 Ultra, to the the OnePlus 13 is probably the fastest phone out there, but a lot of that is because of their software and their touch response time of their OLED panels. The touch response time of this nothing phone does make it feel much faster, more smooth than the iPhone, than this Pixel 10 Pro XL. So in day-to-day use, performance is absolutely fantastic. No issues with that. And I'm a bit of a spec snob myself. I almost didn't want to get this phone because it didn't have the Snapdragon Elite. I get it at $899. You want to have the best specs, but we're at the time in our lives right now in 2025 where performance is just good enough for just about everybody out there. And also the display. I've been trying to look up who's the manufacturer of this display because it is one of the best looking ones out there. It's nice and bright outdoors. The colors look fantastic. There is absolutely no color shift or no dimming when you're looking at it off angle, which is something that a lot of AMOLED screens start to suffer from. Everything about it just looks good, just as good as any of the flagship Samsung displays out there. All right, so I got to talk about the battery now, and the battery is pretty good. I was worried about the Snapdragon 8 Gen S Gen 4 and this not having the largest capacity battery compared to some of the other flagships out there, but I find that I'm getting really good battery on this phone. I use the heck out of my phones, and on a good day, I could end with like 30%. Some days, maybe by like midnight, I could be down to like the 20s, but very rarely though. Comparing to the phone that I'm using right now, the Pixel 10 Pro XL, this has significantly worse battery than the Nothing Phone 3. If I can get to midnight and I'm at 20%, I am 20% of the Pixel 10 Pro sometime between 8 and 9 p.m. So night and day. I would say compared to the S25 Ultra, which I did spend a little bit of time with this year, not as much as some of these other phones, that one has significantly better battery. The OnePlus is a champ. Like I could go like a day and a half of normal use without needing to recharge. This is probably a full day, not a day and a half. But everybody's usage is different. I use my phones a lot. I'm always on YouTube. I use my phone for work. And then because I'm constantly reviewing phones, I'm always testing out features. I'm always doing different things. So my usage is a lot more intense than what a normal person is. So if I'm saying I could get a full day, you can probably get a full day and then wake up the next morning with maybe like 30%. But yeah, I don't know where to take this video from here. I really do like this phone. I think it's getting a lot of flack for not much good reason, but I really believe a lot of people who have been given this phone hate have never used it themselves. The moment you pick up this phone, everything just kind of clicks. It's one of the best phones of the year. I really want to make this my main phone, but the things that are holding me back is it's just the camera. It's not, in my opinion, it's not flagship level. It's upper mid-range, which might not be a bad thing for a lot of people. But if you do care about the camera, then you might need to consider some of the other brands out there. Please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear everyone's opinions. I'm almost at 10,000 subs, guys. So if you want to help me out, oh my God, that would be the world to me. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.